City of Munroe Falls Committee Council meeting Tuesday, September 9th, 2014, starting at 6:30. We'll start off Mayor Larson with the mayor's.
Okay, thank you. I asked the county engineer, Al Brubaker, to be in attendance tonight to enlighten us about stormwater and the county engineer, and hopefully answer some questions. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brubaker.
Hello.
If would you like to address us and tell us what the county is doing on stormwater? And our issues are basically water runs downhill, and everybody on the sides of us are uphill, and we're trying to figure out how we can resolve some of these problems. And is there any help from the county? You can use the podium, or you can sit here if you would like.
Well, I guess sitting's more comfortable if you don't mind. As long as everybody can hear me, why that's, I think, kind of the important part. Mayor Larson asked me to come here tonight. I said I'd be glad to come and talk with you, although he basically said need some questions answered. So for the most part, I'll entertain questions, but let me just give you a little background from the county's perspective on stormwater, and tell you some of the things that the county does do, and then also I guess some of the things the county does not do. But the county engineer's office for more than 20 years has been working toward a countywide stormwater program. And that effort started when Paul Swanson was county engineer. It continued through Gene Esser. It kind of lost a little bit of steam under Greg Bachman, only because of not really received much community support. And when I took office, I took office right at the time when the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District was proposing charging a fee to residents in the northern part of the county. Anyone whose sewer service went into the Cleveland sewer system, they would all pay a fee. And even before I took office, I was invited to a community meeting up in Macedonia, where all of the various mayors and township officials from up in that area were on the rampage over this fee. And what they wanted was, they knew there was a problem. Everybody has always acknowledged for these 20 plus years the problem, but not having a method of addressing it. So those folks felt that rather than pay a fee to the Cuyahoga County Sewer District, they prefer to pay a fee to their own county. So they urged the county to come forth with a program. And so I got involved in negotiations with the sewer district over this fee that they wanted to impose on all. We got to the point where the sewer district agreed that if the county were to implement a program that was going to do the job, then the sewer district would kind of drop Summit County off their fee schedule, because Summit County would be doing something. Oh, let's just get the stormwater done. You talk about Munroe Falls being downhill from folks, on the stormwater level. Well, from the Cuyahoga Valley Basin, at least, the Cleveland area is really downhill. You don't get anywhere downhill than you used to Lake Erie. And so they feel that all of us up here on the hill, so to speak, in Summit County, drained all our water down there, and that we need to participate in the effort of how to control stormwater. Now, beginning in about 1985, 84, 85, thereabouts, Summit County adopted legislation that required that all new land development at least regulate stormwater through stormwater basins, stormwater control basins. Summit County legislation requires that the stormwater runoff be controlled up to the volume of what we call a 100-year storm. What a 100-year storm means is that there's, in any given year, a 1% chance of that much rain falling. Doesn't mean that you only see that storm once every 100 years, but you only have supposedly a 1% chance. Lately, we've had some hurricanes kind of tail in up through this way, and some very severe weather, and it seems like we've had the 100-year storm maybe 3 times in the last 5 years. And some of those have been kind of isolated. They haven't been the entire county that got rained on that way, but certain neighborhoods, certain drainage bases within the county. The most recently experienced was in the Yellow Creek drainage basin. Those people got really, water came through at least 10 feet higher along Yellow Creek than what was customary for a storm flow. One house there, the water was up, probably at least chest height that you were standing in their living room, blew out their big picture windows and things because the water pressure was so great on the outside of the house, you know, it had to come through somewhere. That house today is abandoned, that probably never be lived in again. And so we have seen a lot of storms, and even though the county's new regulations, relatively new, require these stormwater basins, when you do get a storm that exceeds the 100-year storm, all of the water that, once the basin's full, it's all letting off. So even though you have these basins, they control somewhat, but the water's still got to go somewhere. Once they overflow, they're overflowing at a pretty rapid rate once they're totally full. So anyway, that's one regulation that if Munroe Falls does not have, it could actually adopt the counties. And I would imagine that, at least I certainly would encourage it if we have engineers that know how to administer these regulations, how to review the plans and that type of thing, which for the village is pretty complicated, the way these calculations are done. And also with an agreement with the county, like the county could in fact be the review agency or something by contract for the villages or any community in the county for that matter. Right now, the county's regulation only controls the unincorporated areas, so the township section, what's left of townships in the county, which is only about a third of the county now land-wise, 2/3 of the county being now either villages or cities. Anyway, we put together a program based on this from the sewer district issue, and proposed it around all the cities and villages and townships in the county. And I worked on that for 3 or 4 years, trying to gather support. The support, quite frankly, didn't come. The attitude, kind of, the feedback that we received was, oh, well, we do need to do something, but you know, we don't really know that we want our money from our citizens to the county. If we're going to do something, we'd rather keep the money in our own community and try to look at it rather than give it to the county. My kind of attitude on stormwater is if we don't do stormwater on a regional basis, it's not fair. Stormwater is just bigger than a community boundary, and it crosses over all the community boundaries, and we need to cooperate now. Most recently, some of the service directors in the area will get together and talk about stormwater and try to come up with a coalition to do something. Where they were when the county was interested in doing something, I don't know. But the county's plan is sort of taking a back seat now. Unless the communities were to come forth and say, we want the county to run this thing and, you know, do something with it. We need, county council just does not impose regulations on other communities, which they do have the authority to do in some way. But they're not going to do that without other communities asking them to, even among just the townships. Yeah, the counties passed some really good legislation. Townships weren't allowed to pass because they don't have quite the same authority that villages and city councils have. but they've only done it when the townships got together and for at least the majority of them agreed this was something they wanted. So the county is there to serve, but kind of not dictate. So from that standpoint, unless this coalition that's getting together or some communities wanted to join in and do something, I kind of felt if we would just got a couple of cities that wanted to say we're going to join this regional thing, we have something to build on. And once people see positive results, they'd be more likely to get on the wagon and join us. But right now there isn't anything. That's what kind of some people say, well, what's the county going to do? They haven't done anything in 1 year. Now, there is one thing the county can do. And if you know a project that you want to get done, but it's beyond your ability, or it crosses the county. And many counties have been doing this for years, but there's a section of Iowa Revised Code that talks about ditch petitions. What that amounts to is that a petition is filed with the, in our case, read the Revised Code, it all talks about county commissioners. When we talk about county commissioners for Summit County, you're going to talk about county council. A petition would be filed with the clerk of council that described what improvement was wanted by anybody. Petition could be filed by a private property owner, singly, a group of property owners, homeowners association, the city council, or village council, or group of township trustees. What we can't do is the county cannot initiate it because it's the county that is doing all the hearings and making determinations. So if they filed their own petition, they would be acting on their own behalf. And so a petition like that has to come from outside in. And what happens when a petition would be filed, then first of all, the county council would decide, yes, this looks like something that should be done. There's a need for it. Then they advise the county engineer to prepare a report. And there's 2 reports done. One's just a real preliminary report that kind of comes up with a rough cost estimate. And to give them enough idea that it's still feasible, they hold a public hearing to see how many people are going to come out in favor or against it. And then they say, let's proceed. If they proceed, then they go into really designing a plan. A complete set of drawings and cost estimates. You know exactly what an improvement's going to cost based on engineering estimates. They hold another public hearing, build the improvement. The cost of an improvement is assessed to property owners. And when the improvement's done, whatever is constructed has to be maintained by the county after that. One of our problems with many stormwater improvements is there, even if say the village were to get a grant or something to do, they get it all done, then there's no one to take care of it later. And so everything not taken care of eventually begins to fail. But under this section of the revised code, the county is required to also assess those property owners that paid for the improvement of fee taken care of forever, unless for some reason it will no longer be needed, then they can vacate it. They're not even allowed to vacate it unless they get an engineering opinion that says this is obsolete, no longer necessary. If you follow that process, you get improvements done. The problem we would have is that it is in fact the people who pay for it. Nothing's free. Well, everybody's looking for, well, why does the county pay for it? Well, the county has been in near fiscal crisis for the last 6 years. There's not a spare dime in the county. They've laid off. I haven't laid off. They haven't rehired anybody that was retired. My own staff's down over 25%. And so the fact is that there just really has never been and is not any money for stormwater. No different than there isn't any money for building a water line, or sewer line. Those funding questions at this point. I think, it will get a lot better.
Let me start off. 8-9 years ago, I proposed and met with several people from surrounding areas, basically looking at a water conservatory from Silver Lake up north to the headwaters. There was we had a informational meeting, and there was some interest, and but there wasn't any follow through on it. We talk about a regional. We talk about the group of people that are meeting are talking about watershed and that. Have you ever looked at the idea of a water conservancy?
Yes, Mayor. The Conservancy District is another tool in the toolbox. It would not involve the county. A Conservancy District is, first of all, established by basically a petition, but it's a petition to the courts. And the Court of Common Pleas judge decides that the Conservancy District has a need. It becomes its own government. It's kind of like the school board. I guess it'd be sort of a, the school board has a certain mission. They're going to run the school district. And so once you decide on a drainage area that it's going to be in a conservancy district, why a board of directors is appointed by the judge, and then they would hire some staff for consulting services or whatever they need. But when that district is established, it would have kind of a charter, a mission statement, what it's going to do, and what it's going to be responsible for. And then it becomes that district and those members that are appointed to the board's duty to perform whatever that charter says they have to do. So I think, some of the people, when you start to talk about a district, well, again, no matter what, if you're going to be taxed for something, you really want to know what you're going to be taxed for. You kind of want to know how much you're going to be taxed. But in the beginning, it's very difficult for anyone to say what the cost would be imposed on the district. Because if you're going to say, well, the duty of the district is to solve all the flooding in the district, which is kind of what you want to do, could be an exorbitant amount of money. What the county was trying to do is to say, let's start, just back up a little bit here where the county is coming from. The county said, let's start off with a small fee to do a study. So we do not, in our whole summit, or even Cuyahoga County, they don't right now yet have a master plan. And so without a plan, you really don't have a way to come up with the cost. You can always say, well, gee, if we build a 4-foot diameter pipe from A to B, at least that area would not be flooded. But what are we going to do the next time? We know we turn around and get sued if we're going to flood the next person downstream because we've solved somebody's problem upstream. And so, I go out and I look at somebody's yard and I say, yep, your yard is full of water. But if it wasn't there, it's probably going to be in somebody else's yard. So you can fill your yard up or drain your yard and it's going to go someplace else and the next impression is going to be underwater. So without a master plan, we don't know anything. That's kind of where we're at with if we wanted to do a stormwater district or drainage basin district, is the folks that are going to be in that district would like to know, well, what are you going to do for me when my taxes are going to be? We just don't have a good handle what we can tell anybody. So I know that there are examples of districts. There are some townships. There's one township, I think it's Paris over in Portage County, the whole township's a district. But what they do is still rather minimal. So I would not, I'm in favor of anybody solving stormwater problems, whether it be whatever method you pull out of the toolbox to do it, if we're sewer district, that would be fine, because somebody would be working to try to tackle the problem. It's a huge problem. Probably should have brought you my slideshow. I know we really had a little bit of time to go through this, but I started off some years ago, a little loopy in the slideshow. It started off with showing the county what it looked like 150 years ago, and what it looks like today. And while in order to bring in the industry and the commerce that we have gotten in our county, we've had to build roads, we built sewers, we built water lines, and built any significant drainage systems. Even when they build a new subdivision, they put a nice drainage system in the subdivision that dumps into what used to be there for the farmer field. When the farmers took care of it, they had to drain it right, but the crops would grow. But once it left the farmer's hands, no one has cleaned the drainage ditch. No one's replaced the farmer's tile. They were old field tile. They didn't have joints in the pipes. They were clay tile laid at the end. A lot of those are crushed and gone. So when it came to build a home, people looked, they go, well, this on a nice farm field. They stuck their home up. In some cases, they broke the field tile when they built their house. They crushed it with their driveway or their foundation. But no one took care of the farm drainage. Once we divided that farm up into quarter-acre or half-acre lots, but we had one farmer that maybe had 500 acres. Now we've got 300 times 4 property owners. So we got 1,200 property owners. Try to get the 1,200 property owners on that 3-acre tract to get together and all say, we're all going to take care of the drainage system. It doesn't happen. And the biggest perception we have is, and kind of the mayor talked to me a little bit about before the meeting, is some of those houses shouldn't be there. Why do we go there? Somebody gave them a permit. And the people that bought this poor place, they didn't know it was going to flood. Why did they do it was going to flood, But the people upstream, and I'm smarter than them. I bought a nice driveway. So why should I pay anything for a fee to help these dumb people that bought where it's flooding? And the people that are flooding, they look back at their government and say, somebody let me build this house. And quite frankly, when the government tries to stop somebody from building a house, generally they end up in a lawsuit. And the judge looks at it probably when it's dry, and he says, government, give them a permit. So the government loses all the way around. In some cases, if the government did have one of these master plans, because that's where you lose in court. If I tell somebody you can't build somewhere, you're going to flood, I don't have a master plan that proves it. We're going to lose in court. We told you that's not a buildable lot. We don't have any of the evidence to prove we need to tell them it's not a buildable lot. So they build a lot, they go off on their merry way, and some new guy, like the guy on the Yellow Tree, that no longer has a house because the water came through it chest high. So they said. Question 2.
If I may, Mr. Brubaker, Steve Stahl, this group the mayor was talking about, they had an article, and I'll get you a copy of it here in discussion.
I actually read it before.
Okay. Is that something that if you were invited, you'd be willing to at least attend and see what they're going? Because my belief is, I mean, the county's good, but, important, but really I like about this is Portage County's involved too, at least to the extent. And going in, our stormwater problems are probably not part of the Yellow Creek thing. Yellow Creek has their issues, Copley, and I think Copley Northern tried to form a Wolf Creek district or something like that.
It's still being talked about.
So I think we all have different needs, but where the water flows, and I would think maybe your office could be helpful in, at least providing whatever information you already have, or at least be aware, and a liaison with county council, because you may end up with several different districts, so to speak.
Yeah, I actually intended to go to the meeting that was the subject of this article, but I had to be in Columbus that day, so I wasn't able to be there. Some of the things they're talking about, of all, they're talking about, well, can we map the system?
Right.
Just mapping the system is probably going to be very costly. Now, EPA has certain regulations about stormwater, and one of the early things all the communities were supposed to do was map their system. And so my office has maps of what system the county engineer's responsibility to maintain. I think most of the cities and villages have mapping. The problem is when they did that regulation, they didn't collect the data on a regional basis. So everybody's data is in some different format. It may be all electronic, but if I tried to put all of those electronic files together into one map, I have someone that used a symbol for a catch basin that's a courthouse, somebody else's mapping system. So it would be great to get this map done, but I think it's going to take a couple of electronic geniuses, computer gurus, to get this all figured out and do a map. Again, it's not going to be free. So these people are getting together and trying to do something, and they asked NEFCO to look into helping with the map, and they asked Amex to help with the map. But I think what's going to come back is it's not going to be that easy. Now,
Maybe we should get our grandkids together.
These computer mapping systems aren't really simple, and when everybody's on a little bit different data and a little bit different database, it still is hard. And quite frankly, to do a county-wide master plan, the mapping is the the first task. So we've got to know what our system is. We've got to know the size of the pipes and where they go and that type of thing. We can't model a stormwater system without knowing what the system is. So your goal's good. The other thing they're looking at is trying to come up with some kind of uniform idea of what is a municipality's responsibility for stormwater outside of the street. Actually, a little bit, take some considerable research. But essentially, the property owner's going to enter and say, your storm sewer from the street, we use the street that goes down through these lots, et cetera, et cetera. Come fix it. Well, it's probably not the city's responsibility. 90%, maybe the greater percentage of that is private storm sewer system. Even if it was built as a part of the subdivision, when these subdivisions were developed and put in, the communities accepted the subdivision and the streets for maintenance. Most did not accept the drainage easements for maintenance. It wasn't a typical thing they did because they didn't have, so that drainage easement being on private property is an encumbrance upon those private lots that the pipe has the right to be there for the common good. But there's no common obligation from the government to take care of it.
It was quite typical back in the 40s, 50s, 60s when they built developments at this house and this house. You usually had a swale in the middle where the yards met, and they drained downhill, but those things have been filled in. And
will even be a drainage easement on the map, maybe. It says there's a drainage easement for the swale, and many subdivisions say that there's a 5-foot easement on all property lines for drainage, or something to that effect. That's where the people dump their leaves, and their brush, maybe build their shed, or they put in a swimming pool and then they push the dirt from the pool there. There isn't anyone that has even the right to regulate. There's an easement there, that if you went there and the property owner said, get off of my property, you have every right to tell you that. You don't have a right to even be there, so you're trespassing. Then what we found since I've been in office, a number of our townships have gone off and done these things. It just is goodwill. If things not working, the guys are still willing to fix it. The next thing you know, they're getting sued because they still flood. Yeah, they didn't maybe fix it right or whatever. But once you've trespassed and fixed something, the courts may say, you're the problem. You kind of decided to do something, so you now have the responsibility responsibility for it. And so in those cases, our townships have petitioned us to make those then a public water course through the petition process. Because the courts have said, townships have not only no obligation to go off the road right away, they're prohibited from it. There's a section of the revised code that prevents counties and townships from spending their road money on private property. So unless we actually have an easement for highway purposes for this drainage outlet pipe or something, in some cases we do, as I said, take some research. You can't just always say it's off the road, so it's not ours. There may be an easement on file where the village or prior to the village, the county or township took over a drainage course, constructed something, and without a title search, you can't tell. So there may be obligations, but normally there are none. People just walk in with their subdivision plan and they say, this shows the easement here, this means you as a government agency should maintain it. And that's generally no, it's not what that means.
Quick question. Mr. Rager, in regards to the county-wide stormwater program that you propose, what's the cost look like per resident or per city, or the cost analyst on that?
Well, we proposed to do the study, which would take a couple of years, it was $1 a normal home. And then businesses or industries would pay an equivalent of what a home was based on how big their parking lot or building was. So if a commercial building were 10 times the size of the home, they paid $10 a month. That was a month, so it'd be $12 a year. We were anticipating that at the end of the planning stage, that it would go up to $3. What happens with that is that you can't solve everybody's problems in a hurry for $3 a month. But we would then be identifying those most serious problems, kind of cost-benefit analysis, deal out of the study, to where you get the biggest bang for your buck, who's got the worst conditions that would be solved the cheapest, and attack those first, and start building with it. And we would also have just a basic cost estimate of what it would cost to do everything. And we'd be able to say, going with 150 years not doing anything, so to say that everybody's going to have their problem solved in 10, it's kind of pie in the sky. But you try to keep a reasonable fee and some money to get some things done. And so maybe you have to just tell some poor soul, you're like in year 40. Unless we increase the fee, if we double the fee, we get your point. Or made it 4 times as much, you could be in your point. So, but without a plan, without a cost estimate, you don't know how far $3 goes. I forget where we were with income. I think we estimated we had the whole county at $3. We'd be in the neighborhood of, I can't remember for sure, $12 to $15 million a year the county would generate. And if you have some money, you can get some money by the way. So there are grants out there, and some of them are hard to get. But if you don't have your own share of money, and you don't have the money to maybe set your plan first, when these grants come out, what are you going to do? Is it really effective? You have a plan. So you don't have the opportunity to match on any matching funding from the states or the feds or whatever company comes down the pipe. Block grant money, or you just lose out on that because we don't have a plan and we don't have a program and money. If you did the district, some folks are talking about, they're eligible for that money too. Somebody has to have some money, seed money. Somebody to do the grant applications and to be able to sign off that if we get this grant, we have our local share to match and move the project forward.
So to start with, it was a buck a home
Yes.
to
Buck a home a month.
buck a home a month, so $12 a year. Buck a home or buck a parcel.
Oh. A vacant parcel would probably be 0. Vacant land, some places say that really vacant land has to sort of be forested, you know, but I think what we were proposing was that there was no hard surface, no parking or anything on it. It would be a feet at this point in time.
So that never went.
No, sir. In fact, there, you know, it never really had a hearing before council. We did our, I don't think Munroe Falls responded, but Talmadge, as an example, said, we don't have a problem.
No, because it comes in here.
I remember some of them just amazed me with their responses. The Silver Lake's response was, we don't have a problem, it's everybody upstream of us. And I don't know what about a regional plan they weren't thinking, because if you have the problem and it's caused by people want to be in a program. But one of the issues I think is, I guess one of my concerns with, if we're going to look at one of these districts, is probably you won't do a district unless you have a really serious problem. And so, while I say I encourage people to look at the district, I also say I don't want to live in that district. Because that district is who's going to pay for the improvements in that district. If we do a countywide plan, there are some people that, while they're draining water into the problem and would pay for it, they're pretty remote from the problem. We're capturing a whole bunch of people into the fund to make the improvement compared to just capturing those in a small district that have high costs.
In the county plan, I would just, again, if it goes in, first of all, I would say events over the past couple of years with cars floating down East Avenue in town, Grand Road and Stowe, and the issues we've had with our road, a little difficulty between Stowe and Munroe Falls. I think I've illustrated, Mark didn't have big issues. I think they've illustrated the people, we all have a problem with climate change, whatever cost it, I think has happened and is happening. But the combined sewer issue with Akron, I would be opposed to any of this money if it was generated dealing with that problem. Is there a provision, or was there a provision to deal with that? Because one of their issues is they have combined sewers. And I don't want to pay to solve their storm sanitary issues.
Quite frankly, that was initially when the regional sewer district, Cochrane County Sewer District, proposed theirs. That really set off light bulbs, you know. People thought because they had the same problem. They had combined sewer systems.
Right.
And so everybody thought, well, this is just another way for them to get more money into the combined sewer system. The answer is, no, the counties did not make a provision for it, but in some ways, maybe they should. Here's why I say that. If stormwater falls on the ground and it goes to boats of treatment plant, that stormwater, when it comes out of the boats and treatment plant, is as clean as the whistle. So our thought was, is if you could say, well, who goes into the boats and treatment plant for their stormwater? Probably the county shouldn't charge that. They're paying already through that combined sewer system that they have. The county system, it did not make any provision. Everybody was going to pay equally. None of the money went toward sanitary sewage, except that some of our people get sanitary sewage in their homes because of flooding.
Right.
That's totally a separate issue from this combined sewer system.
Right.
But our people that run sanitary sewer systems say, no, we can't fix this unless you fix your flooding problem. I just said, we've done everything we can. We can't keep the stormwater out because, first of all, as soon as it gets into one basement, it has a direct drain to the sanitary sewer system. You know, just one or two basements with stormwater coming in the basement window flood out the sanitary sewer system, it starts backing up and everybody else downstream. And so stormwater is related to a proper working sanitary system.
understand that if you deal with the stormwater, then it will maybe indirectly address some of the problems. Judge Adams has got a pretty tall order there. Pay for that. Judge Adams.
Yes, sir.
So if I understand you correctly, I think our key issue is water coming from Talmadge and Stowe, is that in essence, the county has no oversight at all for municipal stormwater. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can I ask a silly question, I guess? I can count 5 major problems we have in the city. One of them is 91. There's no ditching on the east side of 91. That belongs to Summit County, it belongs to the parks. Water came across there 2 feet deep on the 12th. Now, whose responsible is that? Ability is that?
The person that made it, right?
No.
No,
we had
seriously.
we had 3 major, as you put 100-year storms in less than 3 months, or 6 months, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds trite, but under Ohio law, the downstream property owner is required by Ohio law to accept the flow from the upstream property owner. And the upstream property owner is allowed what's called reasonable use of their land. And I know that's really open to interpretation. The judges have interpreted it pretty liberal. What's reasonable use of the land? They could, build a church in a parking lot, or they could, whatever they want to use their land for that's considered reasonable, they're allowed to, and the water's allowed to run downstream. That's why our county established regulations that said if you develop your land, ever since about 1985, you will at least control your stormwater with a basin that restricts its flow and allows it to discharge at a slower rate than it would if you didn't do that. And Talmadge has similar rate. What we don't have is anybody to make sure that those municipalities that do have those regulations are enforcing them, because they're enforced by those municipalities. Every agency has their own regulations, so it's the same here with Summit County. If Summit County, we had, Talmadge was still a township, I'd be the one that's looking at the plans and making sure they're done right, and you'd be just hoping that I was doing that, because you're downstream. So there isn't anybody that can look upstream and make sure that Talmadge is following their regulations properly or whatever, trying to control the stormwater, because it's sort of a voluntary rule and regulation.
What would the county charge? You said if we wanted to adopt, do you have any idea what the county would charge if we adopted such an ordinance here?
Well, you couldn't probably see a fee, because it would be charged directly to the developer. You just tell the developer he's got to get the county's approval and come in and see the county to sign off. I forget, we start off with a $250 check to get it started, and then we estimate our costs after that, and we bill the developer.
What do we do when the county's part of the problem, when parks is part of the problem, is part of the problem? It's all on their side of the street. Now, what do? You said, charge who?
Well, the county, understand Metro Parks is not the county. Metro Parks is a lot like the sewer district. They're kind of owned government agency, so. But if the parks build something in the county, we review it to say to anyone else, it sounds like this park goes either in Talmadge or River Falls. And so it would fall under that set of regulations to see that if they put in a parking lot or something, that they followed the,
Well, Summit County gave the parks 99 acres. And EPA was with me one day, and he was telling me, he said, well, the water should run down over there, run in the ditch. I said, did you ever walk the east side of that road? There's no ditches. The parks, because it fixed 1/5 of our problem just by putting ditches down that side of the road and taking the ditch and running it to the low spot of the park. They would have a lake, but you can't get them to do it.
I don't know, I cannot address that specific problem because I haven't looked into it, right? I just have have to take your word that that would do
I
it.
gladly walk it with you.
I guess in some cases, if I see a road without a ditch, I think, well, a ditch is supposed to be a part of a road, not necessarily a part of the park. So I don't know who, if what you're telling me is true, I don't know who to blame, whether it's the park that you put a ditch back on the park property, or the road should have had a ditch when the state built it years ago. And they didn't.
How about somebody going all the way to town, just started a ditch all the way from Tommy's all the way down to North Orland, which is on our extreme corner over here.
A lot of the ditches got filled in, and maybe there's a tile in there. People didn't want to mow the ditch, so they put a tile much too small, and then eventually the tile maybe is plugged up with debris from the road, and never got cleaned out. But, could be that there's supposed to be a ditch there that's part of the road, and it's been gone over the years.
There's a catch basin at North Moreland, isn't there, or close to it?
Yeah, there is one catch basin there.
Yeah, parks put in a catch basin, we already.
The catch basin comes across the street into our
Yeah,
store.
in two places.
Bring water from the park over to Munroe Falls.
I don't know if it's fair to characterize all the park.
The duty of a road designer, if I'm designing an improvement, is to calculate how much water is coming from the parcels that are adjacent to the road, and making sure that the road drainage system is capable to at least, then take it to the other side of the road.
Well,
The road's not supposed to be a dam. It's, the road, and all we're responsible for as road builders is to get the water from one side to the other. People think, well, gee, now that it's crossed the road, and they all think it's road water now. And they look at the road owner, the village, city, as being now responsible for all the water. And they're really only responsible for the water that's landed on the road surface, quite frankly. Not all the rest.
If I may, and not to interrupt you, we have a lot of members of the public here, maybe we should give them a chance to ask questions for the times up to Mr. Brubaker.
I have one more question for you. We had Bill Zawiski here from the Ohio EPA. He was telling us with respect to the flooding on Florence, the creek that goes around through Florence, that there's a 500-acre floodplain, 520-some acre floodplain that feeds that area. And of that, 120-some acres are non-porous, or whatever the term is. And I think a rough calculation was that we dumped like 15 million gallons of water down through Florence. So, I mean, we have a real problem there. I'm not sure how to get to where we even begin to solve that problem, because that water's coming from town, which is across the road, the road to the park there.
All of it. Again, if we were doing a master plan, one of the things that we would have to consider, we put up land storage, that slow this water down and keep it upstream and not flood people as much. But when you put together all the costs, maybe bigger pipes, upland storage and all, versus restoring a stream, so it could work, it might be that buying some homes is cheaper than doing all these other things, and more environmentally sound. So that's a part of the plan. If you have a plan, you have funding, you look at the plan, you say, okay, some of these homes maybe should be purchased by the stormwater agency, whoever they may be, because that's the best solution economically to do that. Did that help at all?
Well, how do we get the plan started?
If somebody decided that they want, at this point, I can't tell you that, I think it's going to be hard to get county council back in the group to try to do something. Maybe this group gets together, both counties, between Summit and Portage County together, they decide that they really do want a major stormwater program and the community support it.
Well, we have some county council people here. We got John Schmidt and Reeves. I think I saw Sandra Hertz and Gloria Rogers, and I see Gloria raising her hand. I know her committee is engineering. So could you speak into the microphone?
Sure, I have to be. Gloria Rogers, Summit County Council, I live in Stowe. The issues are all important, and Al's giving you an overview. But without the money, we can do nothing, and we have to start with a plan. We have no plan. We're all aware of the tax issue that's been going to be brought forward this November, and how that tax issue has changed. administration has decided to put $7 million aside for a stormwater study. I spoke to Russ Price's assistant yesterday, Jason Dotson, because I have people telling me if this is not brought forth in the public and addressed, they will not vote for the tax. This tax will affect this. And I mean, I'm sorry. Come on, please, John. But what this tax does, this is a sales tax. So everybody pays the sales tax, okay? That means even drug dealers will pay a sales tax when they go to Target to buy diapers for their kids, which is a good thing. Administration did their due diligence and realized that the tax needed to be changed and stepped right up to the plate and did it, for which they deserve great, great admiration for doing that. So they know that we have a stormwater problem and they're willing to address it. But everything else talked about, and I've had lunch with Al for about 5 years now, once a week, and have learned a tremendous amount from Al and his engineers. A plan for the county needs to be done. That plan would, and my understanding, that plan would be done with money from the tax. Now, what results from that?
But it's not part of the sales.
It's not part of the sales tax, but they're doing a set aside.
Well, that's what the conversations are about, that that's the money from the sales tax passes.
Right.
So I want to be clear, it is not part of the sales tax.
That's right.
But when the sales tax passes, we hope that that will allow us to free up some money to be able to put it towards the study. But it is not part of it.
It's not what they're voting, right? But they know the need is there, and they're willing to address it. Now, once the plan starts, as Al told you, it's millions. It's millions. And it doesn't happen quickly. And a discussion with Al, I would be addressing those areas of greatest need to start off with. So when he says it could take years to get to a point, it could take years. But the other thing I find interesting, in Stowe, I pay a $3 ditching fee, a $4 ditching fee, and a $3 storm fee monthly. Monthly. Okay? So it's a responsibility of our communities, I guess, and how they use that money too. And then we would have to, after a plan is started and put in place, we would have to determine how we work as the communities.
I would say we would have to do that as the plan is being developed. Because at the moment, we have no total agreement on how that would be worked out. Thank you. So synonymously, simultaneously, those two would have to be worked out.
But it is something that administration is willing to address, and I think it's very important.
We are aware that there is a major problem in a number of our cities, our communities, I should say. But the money has not been there to do the plan, nor has agreement been made or consensus been built around that. So we are hoping that if we're able to free up funds, that we can start a dialogue with different communities and balance those that are not paying, the people who are paying, the people that are doing, or if they want to trade or creating a conservancy, or whatever. It's flush out.
Is a percentage of that tax designated cast in stone that will be spent on stormwater?
No.
So it's apt to change again.
I have found, Mayor, that when administration tells me they're going to do something, they have followed through. My tenure on council. This is something that has not been addressed before because, frankly, as Al said, the money hasn't been there to do it. The economy is still not in great shape. But this tax would serve multiple purposes. We would have money freed since the arena is not part of the plan. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think, again, I talked to Jason yesterday and I'm very much aware of the need to look into the stormwater issue. And that's what I can tell you that's been told to me as of yesterday.
So what you're saying is we should believe the county is going to take care of our problems for all these people?
No.
Just
No.
because they say so, because
No.
nothing's on the, you
No.
want us to vote for that 4%.
The
How
point
can you
is-
ask people to vote for?
It's a
Or quarter mills.
It's a quarter mill. It's a
Quarter.
quarter mill.
Sales tax.
It's a sales tax. It's a
But
quarter on
you're saying
$100.
vote for it, but you're not making us any promises.
No, but I'm telling you, let me say this, I took a strong stand against the tax the first time around and voiced my concerns. And the county went out, administration, and did their due diligence and realized that there was a 3-to-1,
Opposition.
thank you, opposition to the arena. So they have come back, a quarter mil is the smallest amount they can put on a sales tax. So they have come back and said, we are willing to address stormwater. I take them at their word, and believe me, I did not give them an easy time over the tax. I can tell you that. Eileen is our president and has a good, very good knowledge of what's going on.
The sales tax is really focused on public safety. So that's where your money will predominantly be going for. Is the jail, the 800 megahertz system, and the 911 system.
Public safety doesn't mean a thing to us. We're out here by ourselves.
Well, that may be.
And we got water coming from 4 different directions.
If you're asking what's in it, I'm telling you what's in it, and it is not stormwater.
Yeah.
Can you talk in the mic? We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
The question was what was in the sales tax, and that's what I was addressing. It is not the purpose, the major focus of the sales tax is on public safety.
And your chief can probably speak to a lot of those issues because of his experience. If you have specific questions about that, and we're not here to try to talk about the tax. I want you to know that the county is very aware of the stormwater issues and that we as council people would like to have them addressed.
I think the thing that baffles me is if it's a priority for the county, there's nothing in here that makes it a priority for us to vote on something that would actually help us with the stormwater issue. Yet you're saying stormwater is a major issue for the county. You asked for the lowest additional increment allowed by law. If you needed, I really find it hard to believe that you're going to find $11 million to do a study. If you have these pressing issues of needed pressing issues, I understand 800 megahertz and problems with the jail and other things. I don't believe for a second that money would ever become available to us unless it's set aside specifically for that at the start of this. And I would say too, I don't object to you asking for the 0.25%. We'll have to let our citizens decide whether or not they want to vote for it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think we need it, but I'm disappointed that there's nothing in there for the priority of the county is saying the stormwater is. I think it's a shame.
I would personally, I would not be opposed to paying another $1 a month that's designated to do that, or even $3 a month if it was designated and I knew it was going to address stormwater in a master plan on a county basis.
And it may come to that, Mayor, but Al has taught us over the years, we must have a study, a significant study that, as he says, would take a couple years, maybe even longer. But the money has to be there to do the study. Is that correct, Al?
Yeah, but you have the opportunity here to have the money there. Ask them.
We could go round and round. What is on the November ballot?
I understand.
I agree with you. Perhaps this should have been something that we had conversations about, including or not including prior to this. But it is in the hand. It will be in the hands of the electorate on the sales tax issue itself. County is saying if there is something that we can do, we will certainly look at it. And I'm not sure that the study itself is $11 or $12 million. Is that correct, Ted?
Highly likely, although because we have no funds, we haven't sought proposals, So it's my guess what it would be that we would seek proposals and negotiate with firms to help us do that study, and then we really know the amount.
Yes, and we really need to also understand that other communities may not have this. I understand you have an issue here. I'm not arguing that with you. But other communities may feel they're already paying for, but that they don't have an issue. As you're saying, why should I pay for something I don't use? Okay, somebody else doesn't have it. So there are no easy answers here, but the question is how do we begin to address a problem?
Let's do it the other way. He said $11 or $12 million for the study. Somebody signed you a check tomorrow for $11 or $12 million. How many years would it take to do the study?
That's the count.
By 18 months to 2 years.
I doubt that.
Oh, that's what was,
And I just-
I mean, we would do it in that period.
Real quick question, Mr. Baker. Do we have other counties that have this sort of program, and if they do, is it working well for them?
Not in Ohio.
Not-
The closest you can come is Mecklenburg County in Virginia. I think it's Virginia.
Yeah, that will work.
And they have what they call Charlotte, no, it's
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Mecklenburg County,
South Carolina.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. There's,
Is it
they call it
working?
Charmac, and the city of Charlotte, the county got together and put together a county-wide program, and the entire county is under the program. They did a master plan, a master study, and now they're moving forward with their improvements. They started that probably 10 years ago. But that's kind of our model. That's what we'd like to see for years.
Is it working well for them? Are they happy with the program?
Yes.
I just think.
You know, this is the first of probably several meetings that we're going to have. And, you know, this is a very complex problem. It involves several governmental agencies, and you know, we're going to keep trying to bring it up and having meetings, and hopefully something will come out of it. You know, I'd love to see the county be able to do a master plan. Yeah, I think that makes more sense than little districts here and there. I appreciate the engineer for coming tonight. I asked him if he wore his asbestos pants. You know, I appreciate the county council people that came tonight, and, you know, could we have a few questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Anybody in the audience?
Like to give them that.
Gentleman in the back.
Yes, could you come up to the microphone?
State your name, come up to the microphone.
I believe we should take some time.
Mayor Harrison, I'm Roy Miles, live over on Highwood Avenue, and I drew a little map of the highway where it's flooding really bad. There's an intersection of Highwood and Lindsay and Vermont, and particularly Lindsay and Highwood. And there's a 8-foot culvert pipe that runs over behind the junior high about a mile over to the river. And everything in this area is coming down to this point. And I guess my question is, one of the gentlemen here, John,
Can I hold that for you while you
my neighbor, John, he was saying that we could open up the drain grates around that intersection where the culvert pipe is. And by putting in, we currently have curb grates, the grates that go into the curb. He's asking if we could put street grates in so the water would flow through that pipe faster and a mile over to the river. And I work in a computer area where we get into big projects and everything freezes and we plan and we plan and we plan. But if there's specific things in the computer that are broken and are easily identifiable as something to do, can't those be addressed, is my question. Can't those, something specific like that be addressed without years of studies and...
Right, and we are addressing that area. Part of the problem is there's two pipes that come together over at Kathy that drain that area. The one closer to John's house goes over to Beechwood into a ditch, and that is full. You know, the pipes can only handle, ditches can only handle so much, and then the ditches will start eroding the banks in that, and all that goes down to
the river.
North River Road.
Yeah, this is a higher level view
Yeah.
of that area.
So, you
Goes
know,
over behind the junior high. And I know, Mayor Larson, that there's another pipe down high
Yeah.
that comes over
by
behind the soccer
Oakwood.
field. Yeah, it comes up
By-
and it joins up over here somewhere.
Yeah, by Oakhurst,
But, you know, my point is, to John's point, this is kind of a specific thing, we just put street rates in.
well, if the pipe's full, it doesn't make any difference if you put more.
4-foot pipe was full. For Banner Construction, I worked with him on it, we put that pipe in, and they went down through there, and I don't think it's full, but I think is that,
That's a 30-inch pipe.
no,
Oh, it's-
it's 4 foot, it's 4 foot.
It's actually different size.
It's 8, I think it's 8 feet.
The one at Kathy's driving, it's not 8.
The one at Lindsay that I'm showing on here, that's an 8-foot pipe.
You don't have 8-foot pipe.
Well, it's big, whatever it is, and it goes over to the junior high.
I think the largest is a 48 inch, which is over by your house.
Yeah, it's 5 foot.
Then it actually reduces down when you get to the other side of Oakers. There's smaller pipes in there. It's not as big as what's down on this
This one's
level.
probably
But the thing is, what I'll do is.
It's almost
take
catch
all
basin,
the
that's
three inlets, and break out the
The
paper,
other side.
put a grate in there. Because the water.
We're talking
the chocolate, the water, they have these reverse driveways. These reverse driveways are running down into the houses and then going right into the floor drains and filling up my sanitary.
Down from where
And it comes to my house. So all the effect what, they control a curve in that area. That's all reverse driveways.
And somebody gave a permit for them to be built.
So they're going to false.
And down here.
So they
you
get
can walk
in
in
there,
there.
but I'll tell you what, the sanitary sewer is flooding. When it's
Oh, so you're saying.
Wait.
And then there's the-
It's not.
So that could be something that an engineer could look at. That idea again, that's a specific problem that I have no engineering knowledge of. There are cases where the low point of streets flood because upstream there's inadequate inlet capacity. The pipe could have capacity, but if the water can't get to the pipe, it runs down the street to the next one, to the next one, to the very bottom, then it's all trying to get in the bottom inlet. So, without some analysis and all, that's not possible to tell. It could be that I've seen water come out of these inlets instead of in. The pipes are totally full, and the low point is coming out.
You can't get in because you got a 7-inch hole.
And one of the things that we try to rely on are inlets, but they often plug. When you get a big storm, you get debris, leaves get shook off the trees and everything, they plug up the inlets, and then when you get down to the bottom, you're going to flood even if the pipe is not full because the inlets get plugged with debris. So in a modern design, we make sure that the low area has a way to flow over land. So we assume pipes are plugged, if you get basketball in it, whatever. We assume the pipe is plugged or the inlets are plugged. Where will the water go is the question we ask if the pipes won't work or the inlets won't work. And in this case, the water runs down the driveways into the people's basements rather than to have an overland flow path where it could go somewhere to get to the stream. And so again, a part of a master stormwater plan is upgrade those kind of areas. It might be a pretty simple fix. Buy an easement between the houses and make a swale through there that can carry the flow, or again, purchase the lowest house on the street so that there is room for the swale to be built so water can get out and go on down to the park or wherever.
So it has a big hill up there. It's got a sand curve and runs some on it, and it's got a 30-inch pipe that they come down, it's all downhill. It's straight downhill like this. And it comes down that hill, and hits those number 2 inlets like that, and comes on down the street, and comes down. We got a 4-foot, we got they have a manhole there that says 4 foot out of the ground. It's got a hole in it, so when the water comes down such a hard force, it pops out the top of that and when it crosses our ground like it does. But then it ends up across everybody else's property, ends up it goes across Maple, and ends up in Munroe Falls, which we got curves, they don't. And we catch that water, and it comes down to my house, down on the intersection. And and they can't get into the manhole because it's too much of a void. Because you got that 30-inch surplus, they're also feeding. Then they want to turn around and they want to take this here, and they want to take here and borrow some more land for free, and they want to take it good with a swamp on it. And realize that, we can't afford that.
Yeah, I can't talk about specifics because I'm not specifically tuned into all the drainage problems here, but these problems are rampant.
Yeah, we took
Similar to this, countywide, they're all over the place, and they all deserve a solution, they all deserve attention.
That's once again, as you said, Stowe could do that and not have to do anything for us, is that correct?
Very difficult to like try to sue them or something over.
Yeah, under the hands of,
You know, and when water leaves a pipe, and then you try to get it back into one, I get it. It's hard, you know, because it's really flying at that point. You try to now corral it again and get it back and close to the pipe. It's very difficult once it's in a pipe and it gets out to put it back in again. So that's where he's, you know, getting inundated by this pipe that's discharging from upstream and then you're trying to capture it again.
Does anybody else in the audience have, I know we're running over here, but.
Some quick comments.
Yes, this is.
Well, we live on Northmoreland Avenue.
Talking to Mike.
Yeah,
Did you break it, John?
John,
We'll fix it later.
it just pushes over.
My wife Jane and I, I'm Bob Gregg. We live on Northmoreland Avenue. And I just want to leave this meeting, and I understand it takes a long time to fix these problems. But a couple of questions I have is, has the council pinpointed the worst problem areas in town? I want to know to see if my property is considered one of the worst ones. You don't have to answer
On
that.
May 12th, you know, 91's People Chase, Florence Boulevard, North Munroe, Kathy Drive,
Highway, Lindsay.
you know, Trudy Avenue. I mean, we're hit all over. So,
Okay,
you know,
and because Steve Stahl's more familiar with my property, it's a little acre place. And so you got that taken care of. Now, the county guy keeps talking about homeowners crushing tile pipe and everything, but we've been there how long? Over 30 years? And there's been acres and acres of property covered with asphalt now. And where it used to be, and you just got done saying, if I heard you wrong, there's no watchdog to keep on these guys, even though they pull permits to do parking lots. I find that hard to believe. So instead of having a ground surface to be able to suck up the water to some extent, the asphalt's just running into the creek behind my property. Now, the water, and I'm in complete agreement with the town, there's Metro Park Place and those ditches along 91. Well, the water comes down 91, heads south, comes down Northmoreland where we live, and then it just so happens it makes a 90-degree turn and heads south again on my property. And then it hits the creek that runs behind the church next door and heads back to the other poor souls at the other end of it. Well, it gets so flooded, the water reverses in my ditch line and it starts heading north again because of the swelling. So I consider that a high problem area, okay? Did they ever think of changing the ratio of once in 100 years? If this is 3 years. That seems like you gotta get out of that frame of mind. You know, and
I
get
think
more
you're
help
absolutely
in our areas.
That's true.
Okay? And so this will be a multi-effort for the flooding problem in the communities. But we're strongly going this way.
I'm encouraging us and
Is everybody in
work
agreement?
together.
Because I want to leave here with some sort of positive.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay. And we had checked into flood insurance, and according to, I don't know what the county calls a flood area, but the insurance company says we're not considered a flood area.
Yeah, that's a designation by the federal government, actually.
So basically, that's all I had to say. I just wanted to make sure that we know where the worst areas are, because I'm just in my own little area. I don't talk to most people, and except for Steve. And thanks for your time.
You live in
North Portland and where?
One of
I'm
the,
about 3 houses down from Thompson Electric.
Okay.
Okay.
He has a nice Christmas.
Yes, sir. You come to the microphone?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jim Armbruster, and my wife Jill is here with me this evening. I understand there's 4 locations or 5 locations within the township or the Munroe Falls where we're having some problems. We're on 500 North River Road, and we live right next to where the road washed out. So my wife and I own 0.7 acres there on the north side of the road, and normally it's a dry creek. But through these several rains, we've had the river 8 feet deep, basically rushing past the back of the house, which caused damage. And I agree with Mayor Larson, where we really needed a larger culvert there. That culvert, the 5-foot culvert under North River, I was meeting with Bill Zawiski and Phil from EnviroScience. They walked the property, we walked all the way up towards 59. And basically, there's about 17 and a half, it's a cross-sectional area of 17 and a half square feet on that pipe. And water that was coming down the back of my property, I've got several bridges that were built over the years because of the water problem got worse and worse. And under one of the bridge, it's 5 foot deep, 15 foot wide, and water was overflowing both sides. But under that alone was close to 80 square feet cross-sectional area. So there's no way that 5-foot culvert is really a solution. I mean, that really should have been a bigger culvert or bridge. So in talking with Bill and walking the property, we've got several areas that are low areas, which we've offered to basically create a basin, several basins. So my wife and I have offered that ability right where in the back of the property, which hooks up with Kansas State Airport, in that marshy area, which the water comes right out off the school from there. That would alleviate, obviously, that area by Kathy and Sharon Cross. But a bigger problem, too, is the Stoba development, the new church, Huffman Plumbing up on 59. The Stoba development, the basin only supports half the cleared property. It supports half the property that has the homes. The other half is cleared, just runs straight back and eventually hooks up into my property. The new church has the basin sits up high. So, I mean, how can you have a basin that sits up high and probably drain into it? So most of that property drains, again, right back into the woods, which then comes back to our property. And Huffman Plumbing has no basin. They just have about a 1 or 10 inch pipe that leads right to the back. Again, back to the woods, which then eventually hook up with all the water coming from the other 2 neighborhoods, or I should say Sharon Cross and that neighborhood. So there's a huge amount of water that comes fast, which we never had there before. 30 years ago when I met my wife, I could literally, straddle the creek that was there, and we never had these problems. So now we've had these problems 3 times in the last 2 years. But the offer that we made to Bill and to Phil is, we got a couple acres in the back, beginning of the property where the creek turns, where we can put a basin. There's an area that is right behind our house. It's about 1 acre. That used to be a pond when 2 previous owners had the house before us. We offered that to be a larger pond or a lake that they could dig down. And then we believe there would be another holding pond up on the airport part where that swamp is. So right as the water comes out from where the school is, there should be another holding pond there. So I do believe in studies, but to spend $11 million on studies when a lot of common sense takes effect, and there's property there to take advantage of to build these basins. We know where the water is coming from. We know where the water is going. There's almost there's almost a 1 square mile of basically watershed that's coming through our backyard, going under and over North River Road, heading down through, the golf course. And those pipes aren't even, they're not capable of supporting water. I mean, there's 5-foot pipes, at the golf, to the golf course, 100 North River Road, and there's no way those pipes can handle it. So right now, the only solution is to, be able to set up the holding ponds and the basins. And again, I've met with Bill, I've met with Phil, they've walked everything, we've discussed it, but we put the offer out there to be a service for at least that part of the community where that problem is significant. And, it's kind of scary to have a dry creek 10 months out of the year and all of a sudden have a river through your backyard that's 8 feet deep. And then we get all the garbage that comes through and it gets washed out of all the neighborhoods. So there's bicycles, there's parks and picnic tables, there's bumpers. It's amazing what we pulled out and had to deal with. So to help quicken the cause, the offer is out there. And hopefully it doesn't take 2 years and before a study is done and 5 years before money is acquired. We just want to be able to help get this done as quickly as possible, at least in that part of the falls.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, what would it take to have it on our end for us, make our attention, good attention on the property? That's something we handle.
We're working with the EPA, and we're actually Bill and I talked about that before he owned the property, and especially back there behind Kempton School, and using that as a study project. And I believe that Bill has been in contact with the school to do that, and we're working on it. Well, I know we're going a half hour over, but I think that for a first meeting, this has been very productive, and really appreciate everybody sharing and coming tonight.
Well, that's kind of presently the biggest problem we have is erosion. So we've gone from the ditch that Munroe Falls dug out to help alleviate the problem back then. I think they dug a ditch that was probably 4 foot deep, 6 foot wide, and now in some places that ditch is 6 foot deep and up to about 20 feet wide. So we're losing significant, soil, which is washing down, and again, we'd like to get that, reduce the amount of land that we're losing, at the same time create holding ponds that slow water down, contain it, release it as it should be.
Mayor Larson, who would do the work for something like that?
Pardon?
Who would be doing the work for something like those ponds?
We would hopefully work with the EPA and get grant funds to help, but more than likely the city would be hiring people, and we would have to work with the homeowners. It gets really complicated when you're on private land and when you're using federal and state and local monies.
But just a commentary, this man here sounds like doing instead of reasons why not to.
Well, we know, obviously, with all that development that's being done on the north side, it's cut its own natural rivers through the woods, which is holding up the water coming from Charing Cross. Because now you have the water coming from Charing Cross heading south, water coming from up north, joining with that, backing everything up.
And then back into the highway area, that's backing up.
It's all backing up because you got more water coming from the north, which isn't being contained properly.
This could solve all that.
At least in that area of our city.
Okay, appreciate that offer, and glad to hear we're working on it. Any other quick questions? We got to wrap it up.
I have a quick question.
Go to the microphone, state your name.
I'm Jeannie Fralick at 96 Vermont. How do we, because there was no information in the paper about this meeting tonight, or on the internet. So how do we find out if there's going to be this type of meeting? Who notifies us? Our city council members, the newspaper?
Usually it will be in the Stowe Century.
Okay, because it wasn't in the Stowe Century, this meeting, as far as I know from when I talked to everybody or my walk. Was it?
Council committee meeting is always on the second Tuesday of the month, and we talk about all the current problems that we're facing. This meeting, it was on the Citizen Watch page, the Munroe Falls Citizen Watch page. We didn't get it in the paper, but we'll post it, and we'll try and get it in the paper. This one was put together just last week, so I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you, that's what I was wondering.
If you leave us your number,
Last minute.
we'll follow up with if you leave your name and number at the end of the meeting. I'll make sure you're aware of it.
Yeah, I would like to talk to whoever the council members for Vermont Street, because I keep getting mixed signals about who it is. So we hear from council members, but I haven't heard from anybody on Vermont. But other people around the community are the ones that let me know about the meetings tonight.
What part of Vermont?
I'm at the beginning, at the top of Vermont, closer to 91.
It's probably me.
It's probably you? I'm glad to hear that. The other question I have, I'm sorry I was late and I didn't get your name and you're with the county engineer. Okay, I have a question. One is, there are about 250 of us that had Summit County come out and put sub pumps in our basements and redrain our water. Where would the lowest spot in your yard, where should that lowest spot in your yard be drained to?
That was probably done by the Department of Environmental Services, I guess.
Okay, so you wouldn't have any,
I didn't know they were even doing that. They're pumping it out of your
you're with
basement.
Summit County now?
I'm the county engineer.
Okay.
I'm roads and bridges and sometimes ditches.
So you would do stormwater, nothing with the counties, what they did with that?
Yes, and the sanitary sewer or the water system. But when they discharge the pipe, just kind of goes out your wall and heads down through your yard.
Correct.
And then if the yard is low, that's where the water stays.
Well, it's the lowest point in my yard is down east basement stairwell, and Summit County hooked the lowest part of my drain that goes into my basement. There's stairs that go down. They hooked it to my footer drains. That drain runs into my footer drains, which backs up my footer drains and floods my basement. And I moved here in the early 80s, and I never had a flooding problem until they did that. And I know that there's about 250 other people that had this done, and they're having problems too. So that's why I wondered who we can find out, like how were they able to do that? And you said something about.
I'm going to guess they assumed that your footer drain drained somewhere, in the street or something.
Like went from the apartment.
Right. Eileen Shapiro could probably get you Mike Went's phone
Like went
number.
from Department of Environmental Services, automobile.
I didn't bring his phone number with me. No, I probably do have. I'll give it to you here as soon as they're done with me. I probably have their phone. But talk to him, and then if we don't get satisfaction from him, you can ask me or Eileen to stay on it. John Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else real quick? We're wrapping. What's that?
I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, Al, thanks for coming tonight. You know, as president of council sitting here, I hear the same thing, and I'm a real estate broker, and you made 2 good points that I was point out. One, a lot of homes are built the wrong place. You go on those allotments, and there's a lot that doesn't sell for 10 years, and then finally it does. And those people end up with water problems. 2, a lot of people have pointed out, and I was going to ask that earlier, what the county's philosophy is. It just seems common sense-wise that retention ponds would alleviate some of this, not all of it. And what is the county doing? You know, we've got all these laws and rules to enforce that. I just want to hear what your version in your plan, how big that would be in your master plan.
Just to summarize, if all the cities and villages and the county all got together and decided they were going to adopt the same regulation, the same standards, and do the same thing, And then allow someone to kind of be the enforcer agent, whether that be my office or a sewer district or something, so that we were all understanding that everybody was abiding by those rules. It would be huge.
And I would certainly encourage cities to get together and do that. That's not good for us all.
And basically, that's what we had proposed 4 years ago, is that we put together this group that was under the jurisdiction of county council. The county council would be totally in charge of the budgeting, the money, so that we had elected officials that we could vote for that are making these decisions of how the money's spent. And we were going to have a committee made up of all of the various political subdivisions in the county. Some of you maybe are, the mayor is familiar with Annex, the committee for 2 counties, where we decide how we're going to do our highway money. And that committee makes recommendations based on engineering judgment and things of how it's to be spent. We're going to have a committee similar to that for stormwater. That committee would make the recommendations to council for what the budget was going to be and how the money would be spent, and work on the master plan. And so we're going to have total community involvement, but you get into all kinds of, some people don't like the Amex committee. They say, well, we don't have enough representation there or something, so we're not getting our fair share. But that's really the whole hang-up, is how do you ensure that everybody's treated fairly? How do you take one community that says we're on the top of the hill, Richfield's another. Richfield's sitting on the top of the hill, they don't have a flooding problem in Richfield. I believe them, I don't know for sure. But I'm going to guess they probably don't have a flooding problem in Richfield, but people downstream don't agree. So, it's a fair thing, and for all these communities to get together and say they're going to adopt something and kind of give up some of your rights that you have. It's no different than we decided to live in a city. We gave up some of our rights to the community to control. It's hard to do. That's all. I appreciate your listening to me. I rambled on a little bit. It was nice to be here and meet you all.
Thank you for coming, thanks for staying over, thanks county council members that showed up tonight, we appreciate it. Thanks citizens that came in tonight. We're going to have a 5-minute recess and then we'll begin our committee meetings. You're all welcome to stay and if you want.